Hi, you guys. Coach Amy here, and I'm here to talk in this week's trail running video about technical trail hill running. So we've been talking about different aspects of trail running as we've gone along, kind of sticking to an easier surface. So I want to talk about technical trails, and one way people describe technical trails, they say if your head goes up, you go down. So basically you must pay attention to the ground because the ground's going to be really rocky. It's going to be something uneven, loose, a lot of roots, mud, things like that. And so again, I want to emphasize that we're still going to be scanning the trail. We don't want to just be looking at our feet the whole time and totally down. We're still going to be scanning the trail, but you really need to pay attention and you really need to focus in. I know I've talked about trail running, how you really need to be in the moment on the trails and really need to be aware of your surroundings. With technical surfaces, that is even more true. And so again, we're still scanning 15 to 20 feet in front of us. If you're going down a hill, you want to see how that hill curves, where you're going. If you're going up a hill, the same thing. If you've got runners, in two directions coming, which direction are they coming? Are they having any troubles? Where are you going to put your feet? So you really need to pay attention and still be scanning the trail. But if you're used to going along and just kind of talking to somebody or, being real casual about it, this is probably not the time that you want to do that. You really want to focus on what you're doing. And I'll go over some different types of technical terrain you might encounter on these uphills and downhills, or just even in general. Number one is rocks, and rocks can come in different sizes. So you can have small, loose rocks, and if you see those coming down a hill, they can slide out from underneath you, so you really want to be conscious of that surface. They can get into your shoes, and so sometimes people want to put what's called a gaiter, or something that wraps around your ankle and your shoe to keep the rocks out of your shoe. If you know in advance that you're going to be on a trail or racing a trail that's got a lot of small rocks in it, you might want to get some trail gaiters to keep those rocks out of your shoes and socks, because that's very painful if you even get one or two in there. The other thing is small rocks, again, they can slide underfoot. And so I talked a little bit about speed work. This is kind of another reason you want to have your legs turn over quickly, because if you have something sliding under your foot and you're not able to pick your foot up or rearrange your positioning really quick, you could go down and you could slide down that hill as well. So I wanted to talk about balance a little bit on these types of surfaces or uneven surfaces going down. I know we talked about running form, and I kind of pointed out how sometimes in trail running, your arms aren't always to your side, like road running. Now, this is one case when you're going down technical trail. The chicken wing is kind of okay because you're going to be using your upper body for balance on this. You're going to be using your torso and that core stability that we've been working on, and you're also going to be using your balance. And some of you guys, we haven't been doing as much of this because we're just kind of starting this, but some plyometric exercises, or exercises with some hops in them, that kind of gets you springing a little bit more. So if you need to change positions all of a sudden on technical trails and going downhill, a plyometric exercise can kind of help if you want to throw that in your toolbox or in your routine. But again, that's plyometric exercises can be very stressful on the body, so I would kind of limit how many of those that you add, but those can be helpful if you're running a lot of technical trail. When you're going downhill, a lot of times you kind of want to do what's called kind of going with the flow of the downhill. So you kind of want to follow your best path down the hill. But if you do need to stop at some point, a lot of times we talk about an athletic stance. So your feet are kind of in a stable position farther apart, and you're standing kind of upright. So you don't want to be like unstable and all of a sudden stopping, because then, again, your feet could come out from underneath you. So if you do need to stop at any point, make sure you kind of have that athletic ready and your stance and your balance is good where you are. Mid-size rocks can dislodge, right? So mid-size rocks can dislodge, and then it's like kind of having golf balls underneath your feet. So you need to watch those. They can dislodge and hit you in the ankle, and that's really painful too. So, again, if you're looking at a lot of mid-size rocks, a lot of times you might just want to slow down. If you see those coming up or you're going up a hill, some of them can have sharp edges. So again, really, really paying attention to where you're placing your foot and what's going on around you on the hill. Large round rocks, a lot of times you see those. Sometimes, they're less likely to become dislodged. They can, but they can become very slippery if if it's raining or, you've had some adverse weather, and then, your foot can actually slip on them. So grippy shoes can kind of help. This is the same with muddy surfaces. Muddy surfaces can, have that kind of sliding, but normally you need to slow down on this. So If you're going uphill, that can mean kind of like a power hiking. If you're going downhill, you know, it can mean you might have to pull on the brakes a little bit and not just barrel down that hill. But again, it's about a lot about paying attention to the conditions and using your sense of balance. Some trails have a lot of roots, and roots can also be slick. They can move underfoot when you're climbing or descending. So the best thing you can do with roots, if you know you're going to be on a trail with a lot of roots, is to gain experience on those, because they're a little bit different to handle, and they're a little bit different to feel underfoot rather than like a rocky surface or an entirely muddy surface. So if you're going to do something with a lot of roots, try and find a terrain or, you know, something similar that you can practice on, especially going uphill or downhill, and especially if it's going to be rainy, because they can be extremely slippery. Balance, again, is the key, using your upper body, your shoulders, your arms, your torso. You want to shift your legs to give yourself the best footing, and also, again, scanning the ground in front of you to make sure you have that best path. And it can be a little bit difficult when you're running. You know, when you're hiking, you kind of have some time, but if you're running, you have to kind of be tuned in to be able to do this faster. But, you know, if it starts getting really sketchy, again, don't be afraid to slow down or even turn around. If it, you know, you're like, I don't think I can handle this, I feel like I'm going to fall down, don't be afraid to turn around and go back and retrace your steps. One thing about trail running, you usually have a shorter stride in trail running than you do even in road running, because you want to avoid these obstacles. When you're going uphill, when you're going on some technical uphill, sometimes your stride gets very short, right? Because you're trying to manage the terrain. So uphill running, a lot of times will have an even shorter stride, especially on technical terrain, than you know, downhill running or than road running. We talked about that fast foot strike, that fast turnover to deal with the terrain. We did some hundreds exercises to really realize that you have to pick up your feet, use your quadriceps. Sometimes if you're going to be on a lot of rocky surfaces, looking at your shoes. So not only the type of grip and the type of terrain for your outsoles, but also shoes with a rock plate or a very stiff insole can help. That way your feet aren't going to be so battered and pounded, you know, if you're doing a lot of descents. And then also trekking poles. Sometimes they look like cross-country ski poles, but they can kind of help with your balance on technical terrain. But you really have to check in advance if you're doing a race, for example, and make sure that that type of thing is allowed. So again, core stability in the upper body and really committing to the hill. A lot of times we get scared and we kind of pull back and our bodies kind of go into this weird position. But really kind of committing to the hill and getting practice on these technical hills so that when you're going down, you really feel and have the confidence to really attack that hill. Because a lot of times if we have that timidness and we're kind of holding ourselves back, you know, that can cause a slide or that could cause an error too. Okay, I think that's what I wanted to cover today. If you have any questions, again, AMIE@runningwithlife.com. And I'll see you guys on the trails.